class, Mike Severson here. This is my Unit 6 forum response to the subject of social responsibility. So, after reading the textbook, according to Chapter 8 of the text, responsibility can be defined in several different ways that can be used to plan, teach, and evaluate student learning. But here the authors more specifically define it as personal acceptance of being answerable for conduct concerning others, our surroundings, and ourselves. And this includes fulfilling our obligations, keeping our commitments, and striving to do and be our personal and moral best, and nurturing and supporting one another. And then, in addition to all of this, it cites some qualities like compassion, cooperation, risk taking, self discipline, honesty, and helpfulness as some traits that can be viewed as forms of responsibility. Um, in terms of the personal and social responsibility curriculum model, the goal seems to be for growth specifically in the effective domain of physical education. This outcome aligns directly with the fourth national standard, and to achieve this requires putting an emphasis on how instructional content is delivered to the students. So the book cites practices of inclusion, allowing student input, providing choice, allowing students to make choices and to reflect on those choices, as well as teaching in a student-centered way, all as necessary components of fostering personal and social responsibility. So, just taking all of that information, in my opinion, and I've always had this opinion from day one, is that the effective domain of physical education is just important as the psychomotor and cognitive. So obviously this means that when I am teaching my classes, I hope to observe the same amount of social development that I would any improvement in cognitive or physical skills. But I'm not actually currently teaching physical education, but I am a substitute in the classroom, and I read in the textbook that, and it specifically said that this this concept is not exclusive to PE. It applies to all other subjects. So to provide a couple specific examples of how I attempt to implement social responsibility in the classroom at my current job, I can actually refer back to the 5th grade class that I taught earlier on today. And even though I didn't write the lessons or come up with the class procedures myself, I can still identify a few things that were present today that encouraged social responsibility. So the first one was that each student in the class has a role for each week. So whether it's class president, praying or making the announcements, the daily announcements, or being the line leader, door holder, whether it's passing out worksheets, and I could go on. These roles are important in encouraging social responsibility, and I could see this concept transferring over into physical education through establishing various student roles. Let's say during a sports education unit where you have a scorekeeper and you have all these different roles. So I can see that transferring over there. The other example that I saw today where the students were practicing social responsibility was having the freedom to use the computer lab that's next door to our classroom to work on their vocabulary packets during literature period. And making this connection to physical education, it could be just the equivalent of taking care of very expensive sports equipment and using it properly and at the appropriate time as well. So just, I mean, even though I'm not coming up with all of this stuff, I'm still at the point where I'm identifying this based off of what I read in the chapter. I think it's really interesting. So that's about all I have, but thanks so much for listening, and I look forward to hearing your responses.